we thought it would be important to kind of give a platform to Asian Americans in this country because their stories are just not told very well.
And the more we talked about exploring that topic, the more things surfaced.
You stumbled upon this NPR article about the Chinese in the Mississippi Delta, and I think that was just kind of like a spark for both of us, and that just narrowed up our focus.
One of the most heartwarming parts of the project was getting that type of affirmation. And I think from that, we realized that we both wanted to tell more stories about people in the Asian American space.
Asian Americans have been here since the late 1700s, but their stories are often just overlooked. And I think as creatives, we have an opportunity to tell stories that are not often heard by the rest of the country.
For me, covering Asian American issues is important to me because I know some Asian Americans who hate who they are. I actually saw it growing up with my younger brother. He went up to my parents and said, "Why am I Asian? Why did you make me who I am?" It crushed me. So I just wanted to make sure younger kids didn't feel that way anymore. When I first started this reporter career, I found it really difficult to get stories approved that were specifically about Asian Americans. I feel like I'm really lucky in the newsroom that I'm working in, where they're more receptive towards Asian American issues and where they see it as not only a specific sect, but that our stories that we cover are essentially American issues as well.
The first thing I do with photography is that I observe things that need to be corrected or changed. And from the process of showing it, displaying it to other people, they can actually help expedite the change that's needed. When I first started my photographic career, it was purely Chinese. But in the 70s, during the height of the protests against the Vietnam War, I came across Japanese Americans for the first time. And then I basically expanded beyond there. Since then, individuals would come up to me who had gone through Asian American studies classes. They said they actually studied my photographs. And a number of students that actually wrote term papers on how my photographs impacted their perception of Asians in America.
My music before had been mostly about exploring my Chinese background through an ensemble that combined erhu, saxophone, viola, and a traditional jazz rhythm section. I have a younger sister, and she brought up the subject of comfort women, and I just became totally fascinated and totally intrigued with how did they persevere? What were their experiences like? More than half of the comfort women were Chinese, and they were kept in their own homelands and enslaved there. And it's not really discussed because culturally in China still it's seen as shameful, and it became really important for me to tell their story because their stories, I think, are at the greatest risk for being forgotten forever.
I started online in blogging, and from there have moved into print, podcast, short form video production. I think it's important to be in media, it's important to be in art. There are really a lot of people working on the ground, working in the rank and file, who have a lot to share and who are very open and who are very interesting. Just try to think about what isn't being covered, what aren't people thinking about. And there's so many individual stories I'm sure that I'll encounter throughout that I can do through podcasts, through articles, through blog posts. Well, there isn't a lot of material out there about Pakistani Americans, South Asian Americans, particularly in their history within this country. Just to be present in any type of media organization, any type of media coverage as an Asian American, that kind of representation is important as well.